Leo nakutii.
Check one two. Check one two. Tora sound. Tora sound. Tora sound. Check one two. Check one two. Bom dia. 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 Como saúde? Saúde está lá. Está lá. Hello. 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 Tora. You want something? Ma? Check one two. Check one two. Oh, wait, it's a direct. It's a direct. Check one two. Check one two. Sound effect. Yeah. Check. Hello. Check one two. One two. One two. One two. Hello. Check one two. Check one two. Yakabato check yaka. Why in the meantime you should be coming here. The crowd man check. Dumela tle. Dumela. Dumela tle. I'm gonna stage Friday. Don't worry. I do not have one. Hello. Horrible. Yeah, it's who. Actually, the capacity. It's a thing. Actually, I like it. Oh, it's good. Hello, check one two. Check one two. Yeah, check one two. Check one two. Yeah, what camera? Wanna push her? We're going 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Is that so? Yeah. Thank you. I'm gonna stage for. Yeah, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Even 200. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning, Cape Town. Cape Town, hello.
Good morning.
Hi, Andile. We're gonna start just now. We apologize for
Okay.
the delay.
Just now can be.
Okay.
All right.
ready.
Honorable Minister in the Presidency, responsible for planning, monitoring and evaluation and administration, the Secretary of National Planning, Mr. Tsidiso Matona, members of the media present today, welcome. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Nolwazi Gasa. I'm the Deputy Director General for Outcomes Monitoring and Evaluation at the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. As you are all aware, the Minister has been tasked by the President to institutionalize planning throughout the whole of government. This comes after we as a country have the National Development Plan 2030. The Minister has also been tasked with driving a department that is responsible for monitoring and evaluating the implementation of the medium-term strategic framework as the first 5-year strategic plan towards realizing the National Development Plan. Amongst others, the Minister has also been tasked with ensuring that planning, monitoring and evaluation as a department sets up the systems in place for us to engage citizens about the quality of service that they receive. Today is about us communicating the progress that government is making in the implementation and evaluation and monitoring thereof of the National Development Plan and the medium-term strategic framework. Communication is very critical to us putting the key message forward. So we welcome your presence here today. This session that we are having today is but the first of many. On a regular basis, the Minister will be holding regular engagements with you to keep you up to date about the progress that government is making. Allow me for a minute to just briefly introduce the Minister. The Minister is, amongst others, the chairperson of the National Convention Arms Control Committee, and as announced yesterday, he is the chairperson of the National Planning Commission. The Minister has an illustrious history. He has served in various forms of government. He definitely needs no introduction, but allow me please to welcome him to the stage to give us a briefing on the progress that government has made so far. Thank you.
Thanks, Nolwazi, the Deputy DG at the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. Members of the media present here today, the Secretary of National Planning, Mr. Tsidiso Matona, members of staff present, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are very honored by your presence this morning on this important engagement between the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, the DPME, and the media. Let me take this opportunity to greet you and welcome you all. We recognize that communication is a critical tool to keep our nation informed about the progress that government is making in pursuing its strategic and sustained agenda. The purpose of today is to inform you about the progress that we are making, the challenges that we are facing, and the interventions that are required to close the gap in implementing the programs of government. As members of the media, you have a critical role to play in helping us communicate these messages and in promoting dialogue and discussion on government policies and its programs. But let me start by saying that we are very pleased to welcome the Cabinet decision to appoint Mr. Tsidiso Matuna as the new Secretary of Planning at the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. Mr. Matuna is a seasoned civil servant who brings extensive experience and expertise and will be an invaluable asset to the National Planning Commission and the department. Yesterday, President Zuma announced the new National Planning Commission and outlined changes to the mandate of the Commission in line with the National Development Plan and the renewed focus on its implementation. Amongst others, the mandate will include undertaking detailed planning in selected sectors such as water and energy to facilitate more effective implementation of the National Development Plan. In addition, the NDP highlights the importance of working in partnerships, and the Commission will have a very important role to play in facilitating partnerships across sectors. The Commission will also to continue to play a role in advising government on how best to implement the NDP and the broader planning and policy issues that have implications for long-term development of our country. And lastly but not least, the Commission will also contribute to the development of international partnerships and networks on national planning. As the President said yesterday, we look forward to working with the new National Planning Commission members in implementing the National Development Plan and in exploring new avenues of socio-economic development in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, on the 5th of May this year, we presented a budget vote speech in which we reflected on the progress the department has made in the past and also outlined our commitments for this financial year. I'm pleased to announce that the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation and the National Youth Development Agency have both obtained clean audit opinions for the 2014-2015 financial year. The Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation has since 2012 repeated this feat. I want to take this opportunity to thank the staff of both entities for a job well done. This should become a norm rather than an exception. At the beginning of this financial year, we committed ourselves to focusing our attention on giving direction on the implementation of the NDP, monitoring its implementation, and evaluating the impact that government programs have on the lives of our people. Our key focus areas are the institutionalization of planning and strengthening the linkages between planning and monitoring and evaluation functions, monitoring and evaluating the implementation of the NDP through the medium-term strategic framework, the MTSF. We have to provide focused attention to the aspects of planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation to unlock the blockages. We have also to ensure synergies and improve use of our resources for effectiveness and efficiency. Also improving the responsiveness to the needs of the public and enhance ability of government to deliver on its mandate. Let me hasten to add that we have to be strategic and focused on what we should monitor performance and impact thereof. For an example, we need to ask ourselves hard questions such as, do our budgets go into the right areas for us to achieve the objectives of the National Development Plan? Are we achieving the right things? What has been the impact of the money that has been spent? The medium-term strategic framework to realize the NDP 2030 vision and address the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, Cabinet adopted, as I've said, the medium-term strategic framework 2014-2019. The MTSF is South Africa's first 5-year building block, focusing on 14 outcomes that mirror the 14 thematic areas of the National Development Plan. Our cabinet utilizes this MTSF as the basis for monitoring the implementation of the NDP across government and considers progress reports for each of the outcomes at least 3 times a year. These outcome quarterly progress reports are made public through the Program of Action website that is being managed by the DPME. Since the adoption of the MTSF last year, we have produced quarterly progress reports on 2 quarters, with the latest being reports for the first quarter of 2015-2016 financial year. Ladies and gentlemen, we are making steady progress in implementing the NDP through the MTSF despite the tough economic conditions we are in. The global economic crisis has affected our economic growth over the last 4 years, prompting a decorrelation in the rate of economic growth. This is coupled with the ongoing relative underperformance of the domestic economy, prompting government to lower its GDP expectations. Besides low global demand, significantly low commodity prices, and the global steel oversupply, our economy is facing several other challenges, including decades of underinvestment in economic infrastructure and an exchange rate that tends to be too volatile, rising administered cost, high port and freight charges, with port charges amongst the highest in the world, too fast and deep trade liberalization, and the electricity supply challenges, amongst others. Improvements in the growth of our economy are lacking employment growth. Despite some progress in increased employment with year-on-year comparisons, overall employment growth remains low and insufficient to absorb the high level of new and existing interest in the labor market. The unemployment rate has increased to 26.4% in the first quarter of 2015. The latest quarterly progress reports on the outcomes paints a mixed bag of both successes and challenges. In the areas of education and skills development, government is on course to achieve most of the targets set in the MTSF. However, as widely reported in the media, the writing of the annual national assessment, the ANA exams, have been postponed until the first week of February to allow for exams to be redesigned and launched next year. Basic education remains a priority area of focus. ANA is very critical for diagnosis and measuring the literacy and numeracy of learners, addressing identified weaknesses, and ensuring that we lay a good foundation for our children's education. Government and labor are committed to strengthening ANA and teacher development. In health, areas of good progress include scaling up of interventions to combat new HIV infections, increased access to antiretroviral treatment, the ARTs, for people living with AIDS, improved screening for and management of tuberculosis, expansion of the prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV program, and the reduction of the infant under 5 mortality rates. Our country has received worldwide recognition for each HIV and AIDS program, which has over 3 million people initiated on treatment, contributing to the attainment of the Millennium Development Goals. In rural development and land reform, progress on land acquisition for smallholders has been slow, and on utilization of newly allocated farms and communal land for production, there are indications that this is partly due to the inadequate support services, prevailing drought conditions, and the use of fallow communal land for livestock grazing purposes. Government's implementation programs are being reviewed and strengthened to resolve some of these issues. There has been a welcome reduction in the percentage of households vulnerable to hunger from 11.5% in 2011 to 11.4% in 2014, narrowing the inequality gap on access to food. On safety and security, good progress is being made with regards to the reduction of overall levels of serious crime. Notable successes include achieving 67.3% of case dockets for conduct crimes that are ready for trial against a target of 65%. Conviction rates for sexual offenses stood at 71.1% against the target of 68%, while the conviction rate for trial crimes, that was house robberies, hijacking, and business robberies, was at 85%. Some of the challenges that are receiving our attention include inadequate capacity in the areas of forensics, crime investigations, in particular investigations of serious conduct crimes and crimes against women and children, which are being emphasized. We are implementing Operation Fiela Reclaim to rid our country of illegal weapons, drug dens, prostitution rings, and other illegal activities. This multidisciplinary interdepartmental operation is contributing to the safety and security of our communities. Further details on progress in the implementation of the 15 outcomes are available on the Program of Action website at the DPME. Ladies and gentlemen, on Sunday this week, on the 20th of September, I will be launching the 2014 Development Indicators Report. The development indicators are numerical indications of changes and long-term trends in South Africa. Some of the indicators have data ranging from 1994 to 2014. The development indicators are used to measure progress and assist government to track, using quantitative measures, the effectiveness of government policies and interventions towards achieving the national goals in areas of development. The indicators are clustered according to 10 themes, namely economic growth and transformation, employment, poverty and inequality, household and community assets, health, education, social cohesion, safety and security, international relations, and good governance. The data is sourced from various government administrative data sets, national official statistics, and research by local and international institutions. You are invited to the launch of the 2014 Development Indicators Report, which will be held at this very venue. Improving implementation of the NDP Operation Phakisa. As you are aware, to ensure effective implementation of the NDP priorities in key socio-economic sectors, we have introduced an innovative approach that enables government and key stakeholders to transform high-level plans into detailed implementation programs to fast-track delivery of results. We have termed this approach Operation Phakisa, which is borrowed concept from the Malaysian Big Fast Results methodology designed to assist with fast-tracking delivery on some of the priorities emphasized and encompassed in the NDP Vision 2030. On the 12th of August 2015, President Zuma gave a full account on the progress we have made so far in implementing this methodology in unlocking the economic potential of our oceans and health. To date, this methodology is proving to be a catalyst for accelerated delivery of services in critical areas of the NDP. For this reason, Operation Phakisa is being rolled out to other areas such as education and mining. Regular progress report will be given on the implementation of Operation Phakisa to keep the public informed. On local government performance, the President said in his State of the Nation address in February this year that local government is everybody's business. We have to make it work. DPME is contributing to making local government work better and has initiated an assessment of management practices tailored for municipalities. This initiative is referred to as the Local Government Management Improvement Model. It measures the institutional performance of municipalities across a number of key performance areas. To date, we have assessed 30 municipalities and have used the results to inform improvements. In 2015-16 financial year, we intend to enroll a further 25 municipalities for assessment. The department will work with the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in rolling out this initiative to the rest of the municipalities. Ladies and gentlemen, the importance of reliable data for monitoring and evaluation cannot be overemphasized. Currently, there is a process of upgrading the data collection system to provide real-time data that can be used effectively in monitoring and evaluation of government's programs of action. I have directed the DPME and States SA to work on the most cost-effective way of developing real-time and effective data collection systems that will assist effective monitoring of these 14 priority outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have always said that building a capable developmental state and forging a disciplined, people-centered and professional public service are one of the key pillars of the NDP. The Management Performance Assessment Tool, the MPAT, is one such initiative that we have introduced to monitor management practices within national and provincial departments. We do this because we understand that without improving management practices in the public service, the delivery of services to our people will fall short of their expectations. In the past year, 155 national and provincial departments conducted self-assessments on their management practices. A recent evaluation indicates that the MPAT is a sophisticated assessment of management practice which is comparable with the best known international examples. Thus far, it has been well received by departments with high rates of participation. Government departments value this relatively unique assessment tool and find its assessments useful for improvement, especially of planning. Monitoring the payment of suppliers within 30 days. This is one of the areas where our government has been found wanting, is the payment of these suppliers within 30 days of receipt of a valid invoice. A comparative analysis of national departments between 2013 and 2014 has shown that there has been an improvement in the average number of invoices paid within 30 days. However, delays in payment remain a major challenge with significant negative impact on small business, growing the economy, and employment creation. For instance, national departments reported 155,572 invoices worth 3.8 billion rand, which were paid after 30 days. At the same time, 62,887 invoices older than 30 days worth a staggering 2.1 billion rand had not been paid. Provincial departments for the same period reveal a marginal improvement of 5% in the average number of invoices paid within 30 days. Provinces reported 241,332 invoices worth a staggering 13.4 billion rand, which were paid after 30 days, and 357,079 invoices worth 21.8 billion rand, invoices older than 30 days, which were not paid. Cabinet approved the establishment of a special unit to proactively address the payment of suppliers within 30 days from receipt of a legitimate invoice. This unit is located within Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation and is working with National Treasury and the Department of Public Service and Administration. The Frontline Service Delivery Monitoring Program gives effect to Outcome 12, which calls for an efficient, effective, and development-oriented public service and an empowered, fair, and inclusive citizenship. It uses unannounced monitoring visits to assess the quality of service delivery in frontline service facilities, using structured questionnaires to guide interviews with citizens and staff and observations by monitors. Since the inception of this program in 2011, we have conducted unannounced monitoring of 678 frontline facilities. In 2015-2016 financial year, we intend to assess 90 new facilities. And during this year, we also conduct improvement monitoring visits of 120 facilities. After 4 years of this monitoring, we can say that most departments have heeded the call to provide stronger leadership at frontline services, with SAPS, Home Affairs, the Social Security Agency now having frontline improvements as a strategic project. Admittedly, more still needs to be done to have meaningful impact. The Presidential Hotline provides a platform for our people to lodge queries and complaints about the quality of service they receive from our government. To date, we have recorded 207,000 complaints and queries through this hotline, of which 35% are general queries and 65% are complaints about services. We can report that for all complaints and queries received, 94% are recorded as resolved, and 11,761, which is 6%, are still to be resolved. The nature of the complaints that we receive mainly involve labor relations and employment, land and housing, local government, basic services and utilities, crime and justice. We regularly report to Cabinet and give feedback to departments and provinces on the number of complaints received and resolved. We undertake telephonic satisfaction surveys to ask citizens to rate their experience to the hotline. To date, we have surveyed 23,000 people, and the results suggest that on average, 70% of people rate the service as good to fair and 30% rate it as poor. We have also introduced citizen-based monitoring and piloted it in 10 facilities in Gauteng, Northwest, and Limpopo provinces. This financial year, we'll roll out this program to facilities in the Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Western Cape, and Mpumalanga. The involvement of citizens in the delivery of services is a major point of emphasis in the National Development Plan. Ladies and gentlemen, through the National Evaluation System, we reflect on whether our programs are achieving what they were intended to achieve, whether we're doing the right things, whether we are being effective, efficient, and providing value for money, and how we can improve. In collaboration with government departments, we commission academic and research institutions to undertake evaluations which are later tabled to Cabinet and Parliament. Departments are expected to develop improvement plans that address key issues raised in the evaluations. Since 2012, we have a total of 47 evaluations underway or completed, covering around 75 billion rand of government expenditure. As these evaluations are completed and fed into the system, we should see improvements in the effectiveness of government's programs. For an example, the first evaluation on early childhood development resulted in a new ECD policy being developed and gazetted in March 2015. The evaluation of grade R is leading to a focus on improving the quality of grade R to maximize its impact on poor children and in poorly performing provinces, and strengthening the training and development of grade R teachers. This has the potential to make a major difference to our children. We have completed evaluations of the business process outsourcing scheme, the BPS, the support program for industrial innovation, and the technology and human resources for industry program, the TRIP. As a result of the evaluations, both the BPS SPI have been revised and relaunched and should be more effective and efficient than before. The evaluation of nutrition interventions for children under 5 has shown that there is a significant problem of stunting for 21% of our children. This evaluation has informed the inclusion of the MTSF target to reduce stunting to 10%. The Urban Settlements Development Grant evaluation has led to a revised grant framework. The design evaluation of the policy on community colleges has led to the policy being revised even before the evaluation has been completed. We are practicing what we preach. We have undertaken evaluations of some of our own programs. The Management Performance Assessment Tool and the Citizen-Based Monitoring Program. And going forward, some of the programs to be evaluated include the Integrated Justice Program, the City Support Program, and the Birth Registration Program. Capacity development and knowledge sharing. The capacity building is an NDP imperative. As part of our capacity building and international liaison in the field of planning, monitoring, and evaluation, we have partnered with international institutions such as the World Bank and have co-hosted international knowledge sharing workshops in June 2014 and March 2015. These international sessions serve as a platform for the department to share knowledge with its peers from fellow African countries about how the various planning, monitoring, and evaluation programs are being designed and implemented, the difference that they are making, and what is being learned from both success and challenges being experienced. Our department is leading the Twende Mbele, a regional African project on monitoring and evaluation anchored by our close partners in Uganda in the Office of the Prime Minister, and Benin, the Minister of Evaluation and Public Policies, and the Regional Center for Learning and Evaluation Results Clear, which is based at Wits University. Twende Mbele's intended outcome is effective implementation of monitoring and evaluation systems and ongoing collaboration across Africa. We are humbled by the interest shown by other countries on our programs, and we commit to constantly improve the way in which we work and our tools and our guidelines. The National Youth Development Agency, NYDA, is now an entity under the Department of Planning, Monitoring, and Evaluation. I have delegated National Youth Development to the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Buti Manamela. Youth unemployment remains a major challenge for our country, as is the world over. DPME has partnered with other government departments, youth organizations, including the South African Youth Council and business, to ensure that steps are taken for the youth development must be at the center of our country's development. In this regard, President Zuma has launched the Presidential Youth Working Group in June 2015 to promote youth participation in governance and policy making and to mainstream youth development and empowerment in the work of government to build a better life for all of our young people. In taking forward the work of the Presidential Youth Working Group, the department has established the following work streams: economic participation and transformation, education, skills and second chances, healthcare and combating substance abuse, nation building and social cohesion, and effective and responsive youth development institutions. The plans of these work streams will form part of the integrated youth development strategy, and progress will also be included in the MTSF for proper monitoring and evaluation. In conclusion, we are pleased about the progress that we have made so far. However, we are mindful that the road ahead will be challenging. We remain committed to the creation of a better life for all South Africans, and the National Development Plan remains our road map. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that. We've come to the point where I'm going to take a couple of questions from the media. I recognize Cape Town. I would ask us to do is when you're raising your question, just please say your name, which organization or institution are you associated with, and then present your question. Perhaps I could take Pretoria first.
My question is to the Minister. I'm Megan from Engineering News. Minister, I'd like to know more about citizen-based monitoring. What exactly does this entail? What is the program there? Can you please go into more details there? It seems that what you said, the involvement of citizens in the delivery of services is a major point of emphasis. But we pay taxes, so we shouldn't be delivering our own services. If you can just clarify that for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that lady there, and then the gentleman. Thank you.
Helen Nislo from Power FM. Thanks, Minister. If you can just outline the 30 municipalities that you've assessed so far, which do they include? Do they include any metros? What criteria did you use to assess, and what kind of improvements have you made? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Minister, my name is Jan Lange. I'm from Media 24. I just want to point out that in the midst of this energy crisis, Eskom is selling electricity, some 70% of its generation capacity, selling that electricity at a price of around 20 cents a kilowatt hour to BHP Billiton for the production of aluminium, while the cost of generation is in excess of 60 cents a kilowatt hour. A huge loss for the country, and government effort is completely, you can't do anything about it, it's a contract. That's the result of secrecy when this contract was signed many years ago. Now this commission has made stringent recommendations on and set precedent conditions regarding disclosure of financial information and the affordability of the introduction before we introduce nuclear power to South Africa. And the onset, the view from the outside is that people are keeping this a secret from the public. These are deals that's been done behind closed doors exactly the same way that the aluminium smelter supply contracts was done some 2 decades ago. Is this commission in any way able to prevent a recurrence of a similar calamity with nuclear power in South Africa?
Thank you.
Secondly, you mentioned that the youth agency is now under the auspices of the Commission and that you're monitoring it. Are you also going to take command of the youth wage subsidy that was introduced? Are you going to monitor the success of that subsidy and report on it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cape Town, are there questions?
Yes, we do have a question in Cape Town, Chairperson. Over to you.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Marina Lamprecht from Media 24 newspapers. My question to Minister Gadebe is that recently Minister Cronin said in the media the NDP is a wonderful idea but totally unrealistic. It's just more of a vision, really. So it seems there's clearly a divide, even in government, on the NDP and whether it will work and whether it's a good plan. So certainly it won't work if there's a split in government. What are you doing to make sure government as a whole unite behind this plan?
Thank you. Is there
That's all
another
from
question?
Cape Town, sir.
Thank you very much. Minister, those 5-6 questions. Let's take your response, please, before we proceed to the next round.
Let me answer the political question first. Jeremy Cronin, when he uttered those words, he was not speaking on behalf of government or as member of government. He was speaking in his capacity as the Deputy General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. Our government is very clear on the National Development Plan. This is the plan not only of government or ANC, it's the plan of the people of South Africa. Let us recall when the President first announced the National Planning Commission, there was only one person who was part of government, and that is my previous cabinet colleague, Trevor Manuel, who was the chairperson of the National Planning Commission. And the rest of the commissioners were people outside of government. For a very good reason, because the president always believed, as he does now, of the vision of our country for the future, that we do not want an ANC plan, we don't want a government plan, but a plan for the people of South Africa. In 2012, Parliament of the Republic of South Africa adopted the National Development Plan Vision 2030. Our government also adopted the National Development Plan. Our ruling party, the ANC, at its last national conference in Mangaung in December 2012, also adopted. Our responsibility as government is therefore to ensure that all those who are not yet convinced on the national development must come on board. Obviously, there is no perfect plan because, as in Zulu say, abantu abayi ngancanye njengamanzi. But I believe that in broad outline, the majority of South Africans have rallied behind this blueprint, our roadmap, the NDP. That is why government, in implementing the NDP, we have adopted our first 5-year program, which we call the Medium-Term Strategic Framework 2014-2019, with 14 outcomes, and the President has signed performance agreements with all ministers, including the minister in Jeremy Cronin's Department, Public Works, and are being held accountable to perform on the outcomes that we want. On the issues of citizen-based monitoring, I'll ask the Deputy DG, Nolwazi, to give more insight on this, and also Kulegani Mate, if he's here, on the issues around the 30 municipalities that have been assessed and what kind of improvements have been effected. And then the brand new Secretary of National Planning, Mr. Sidiso, to answer the question on the issues around the energy challenge, with particular reference to those issues that have been raised around ESCOM. But I just want to emphasize one point, that the NPC has a very clear mandate, as the President has highlighted yesterday, that their role is not to please government, but to be professionals, to advise government, to assist government of how best to implement the National Development Plan. We don't want to hear, we don't want to receive what we want to hear. We want to know how best can we implement our plan. But I want to assure you that in the procurement of the nuclear program, there will be transparency in accordance with our constitution and the laws of the Republic of South Africa. So nothing will be behind closed doors. There will be a transparent public process to secure our energy needs, because nuclear is part of our broad energy plan in ensuring that we can be able to diversify our energy in South Africa to include all alternatives. On the issue of youth, yes, the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation will also be monitoring the performance of the National Youth Development Agency. As I've indicated, I've delegated that responsibility to Deputy Minister Buti Manamela. So,
thank you. Is it off? There you are.
Yes.
Thank you, Minister. I think you've covered the issue, because as I understand it, really, the concern is around transparency. And if you look at the context historically in which nuclear procurement is being done, which is the current context, when you compare it to the time when the BHP bulletin contract was signed, those are completely different periods in history. And in fact, applying the principles of transparency to that contract, two issues arise that I think will always need to be balanced. One is the principle of contracts. Contracts are by their nature confidential. And so I think that we must not throw away the principle of confidentiality as it applies to contracts. But that has to be balanced with the national interest. And I think that the principle of the national interest, what is in the national interest, has been applied to the BHP bulletin contract. And that's why ESCOM and BHP bulletin entered into a renegotiation of the contract. Now, I know there's no outcome. The matter was partly sub judice. The courts were dealing with that. And the last time I recall, I think the regulator was also looking at it. I'm not aware of what the outcome is. But if I recall, and just to illustrate the point about different contexts, Media 24 availed itself to our courts with regard to access to information. So you approached the courts and said that you would like access to that contract. Now, I can't remember what the courts determined, because at the point where there is, if like, no agreement as to how to treat the issue, the courts are always there to assist. So I think you should know better, how the courts dealt with this issue in relation to the BHP contract with ESCOM. But I think that in the current context in which the nuclear deal is being done, I think the minister has covered the issue. There will be necessary transparency, which different constituencies, the public, the media, everybody expects. And so that's the reality. We'll do this in an environment where there's an expectations of transparency, without throwing away the necessary confidentialities as may be required. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Apologies for that. Let me take the last two questions on citizen-based monitoring and local government, the LGMIM. The first question, I think, pertained to what exactly does the citizen-based monitoring program entail? What we've sought to do as the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation is to ensure that citizens are heard, and their voice especially is heard about the quality of service that they receive. We've targeted a couple of service points: health, education, police services, and state security. Social security, SSSA. The intention in terms of this program is about going right to the point where citizens receive service and getting them to provide an expression on how they are experiencing the quality of service that they receive. This builds on the frontline service delivery monitoring, which, as the minister indicated, entails us as DPME going there, undertaking unannounced visits to assess the facility. When we look at a range of the service providers that are there, the times at which a service is opened, and the quality generally of the service delivered. What the CPM does is to go directly to the citizen and say, kindly rate how you feel about these specific service points. And we are wanting to give citizens, or ensure that citizens are active in terms of rating the quality of the service that they provide. We are piloting this, as the minister indicates. What we are intending is to build on this program and go to a whole range of other facilities in the Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Western Cape, and Mpumalanga. Regarding local government and what the intention is there, I think the specific question was exactly which municipalities have been visited. I can provide the list of all of them that's available and open. Secondly, what we are targeting is the extent to which the institutional performance of municipalities across a number of key performance areas is what it should be. So we've identified at least the 4, amongst others, key performance areas. The first one is the extent to which municipalities plan accordingly for delivery. So one of the key performance areas that we look at is the IDIPs, as indicated in the Municipal Services and Structures Act. Secondly, what we look at is whether the way in which the local government authorities are structured in a way that enables them to deliver the right service to citizens. So some of the key things we look at is the extent to which they've got the requisite human resources that's required in terms of technical expertise and financial expertise. Secondly, we look at the extent to which they are making progress or not around financial management. So some of the things we look at are the audit outcomes and the targets that have been outlined in that regard. And lastly, some of the things we look at, which are critical as espoused in the IDIPs, is the extent to which the municipality has set up mechanisms in place to ensure that it is responsive to citizens and can be reached. Thank you, Minister. If I can change hats again and then take the next round of questions. I recognize my colleague at the front, the second lady on the third row. Yes, please.
Thank you, Ndolasi. Minister, my name is Fanapet. I'm representing the SABC News. Maybe things are more complex than I've always thought. The question of Anna, I take it for granted that when you were at Mangaung, there were working committees that should have interrogated Anna to know what the objectives thereof are. And they should have known what would be then the outcome of Anna. Then why now all of a sudden we have the redesigning of this Anna 3 years after this thing, after the Mangaung conference? Why should it be then redesigned? Who did not do his work or her work properly there? The other question is this of the payment of accounts within 30 days. This is an old story. I'm trying to find out if you stand at the 300 356,000 invoices not being paid. What's wrong? What is it that is not being done that makes, aren't we having correct people at correct posts, or do we just employ people and feed them there when they cannot even deliver? Maybe it's complex, but I don't know how it happens that people should fail to pay an invoice, because it impacts on the number of people employed by that entity. And that entity may close because its invoices are not paid. And the question of unemployment grows as a result of this. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. The next question.
Thank you. Helena Slow here again. Minister, from what I can understand, the economy has to grow at 5% by 2030 if you want to halve the unemployment. I know that the Finance Minister is expected to revise the economic growth down next month. Do you think it's time to admit defeat yet, that you won't be able to reach the targets because the country hasn't achieved the economic growth? And then also, one of the criticisms that people have against the NDP is that it's not filtering down to municipalities and provinces. Municipalities aren't taking it into account when planning. So how does this new NPC plan to resolve that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cape Town, are there questions?
No, Chairperson, we don't have any questions in Cape Town at this stage.
Thank you. Minister, questions around the annual national assessment and the 30-day payment and the local government and the integration with and alignment with the National Development Plan. Thank you.
As far as we're aware, the ANA was properly designed, and as I understand it now, the teachers are talking about the frequency of ANA. So that's the point of debate. The principle of this annual assessment is not in doubt of the assessment, but now is the issue of the frequency. As I understand it as well, that there has been an agreement between basic education and those trade unions that the next one will be held sometime early next year in February. On the issue of the payment within 30 days, it is a challenge. That is why the President has established this special unit to focus attention to ensure that suppliers are paid within 30 days of providing a valid or legitimate invoice. We've also gone further than that to say that accounting officers, heads of departments, must be held accountable in instances where this has not been done after producing a valid invoice, and that this non-payment must also be regarded as misconduct in terms of the Public Service Act. So we're going to be seeing a lot of improvement, even though now, since we started this program, there is improvement, but we're just highlighting the point because of the negative consequences of not paying a valid invoice within 30 days, especially for small business in our country, because as we know, one of our major priorities of government is to ensure that we promote small and medium enterprises in our economy. We are not admitting any defeat. The issues of the lack of adequate economic growth cannot be solely placed at the doorstep of South Africa because we are not an island. We are part of the global economy. The genesis of the crisis started in around 2008, and as part of the global economy, so we are affected by what happens around the world. When the global economy sneezes, also here in South Africa, we catch a cold. John, that Matuna will also add.
No, I just wanted to reinforce, I think, what is an adequate response on the 30-day that the Minister has given. Yes, there is some measure of complexity, and hence the emphasis on when an invoice has been received. So sometimes a service is provided, but the invoice for one reason or the other, is not submitted. So when we looked at this issue closely, we found that yes, there are problems on the government side, and therefore our performance and compliance with the prescripts of the PFMA, which enjoins payments within 30 days, we must shine a very sharp spotlight and hold the relevant people, including accounting officers, accountable to compliance. But we also found that there are a variety of factors that originate from the suppliers themselves. So submitting an invoice in time after providing a service is one of those things. The PFMA requires that before I pay you, I must have satisfied myself that the service has been provided to required standard, that you are compliant with other legislation, you have a tax certificate, and so on and so on and so on. Because if I pay you without having satisfied those conditions, then that would be in violation of the PFMA. So we need to streamline things, and this is going to be ongoing work. We're not going to solve this problem at one go. I think the general trend that is emerging, as the Minister is indicating, is that we are making progress. We must empower the enterprises, small enterprises, to understand how the PFMA works, what the obligations of public officials are, but also make sure that the public officials are responsive to the requirements. And there will always be a measure of risk that we will assume in this issue. And I think sometimes officials are too risk averse to the detriment of the small enterprises who are suppliers. In passing, I also found that in fact, even in matured economies like the European Union, I read, I think it was last year, that they still have the same problem, of non-payment of small suppliers. And a concern was, a policy concern, as you correctly observe, about what the impact is, because these tend to be major employers in the economy. So it's a global problem, but we must address it because our circumstances are quite dire, I think, with regard to employment and growth of small enterprises. Thanks.
There was just one question I forgot to answer as well. That the NDP, provinces and local government as well, have to align their programs to the National Development Plan. The premier's offices and the mayors are under instruction as well to make sure that no budgets can be approved unless they've been verified that the programs are aligned with the National Development Plan. As a DPME, we also assist provinces to ensure that their annual plans are aligned with the National Development Plan. And lastly, Treasury instructions were changed last year and amended to make sure that before government departments submit a claim to National Treasury in order for budget to be put, the DPME has to verify that what is there is in line with the NDP as well as with the MTSF.
Please put your mic on.
A little more clarity on the local government management improvement model. Vessel Eberson from Debate Journal, incidentally. The model, it's being focused on certain municipalities to begin with. Are these the outlying ones, the rural ones that are short of staff, that have the greatest need, or is it more general?
That's the first question. Thank you. Just the next one, please don't forget to introduce yourself, say who you are. Yes, please.
So just as a point of clarity on my previous question, I'm not sure, Mr. Matona explained a lot about it, but what I actually asked was, is the Planning Commission going to play a role in oversight on the financial model for nuclear or on disclosure? You made assurances that there will be disclosure, but I'm not sure what the role of the Planning Commission is. The Planning Commission made very strong recommendations regarding nuclear in its report.
Well, the National Planning Commission was only announced yesterday. It has not even met. Yes. So if you can explain that local government model.
All right, thank you very much for the question. In terms of the local government model, what we've borne in mind is the different array of the different municipalities and the context in which they operate. So I have a list of the figures of municipalities and in terms of which ones we've visited. As I indicated, we would share that. But currently, the number of municipalities that have gone or been taken through this LGMIM is a mix. It's a mix of both urban and rural. It's a mix of both poorly performing, average performing, and good performers. Based on the list we've got so far, we've been to different provinces, including Northwest, Free State, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and I believe KwaZulu-Natal. But the model that we've taken is one of saying municipalities are at the center of service delivery. These are the considerations regarding the environment in which they operate. These are the management performance areas that we're looking into. And we've gone for a route where we both push for improvements in terms of local government, but at the same time, we want municipalities to also own the process. Similarly to the MPET process, we've been very consultative in terms of developing the tool, ensuring that we cover all these critical elements that, for example, Treasury and ourselves would look at in terms of our commitment to a working local government. And secondly, what we've looked at are key issues that, for example, the AG would need to pick up, hence my comment earlier on around the audit outcomes. But the list that we have right now is a mix of both urban and rural area. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? No, in Pretoria? Cape Town, are there questions?
No in Cape Town.
All right. Thank you very much, colleagues. As I indicated in the beginning, I want to thank you for sacrificing your Friday morning and coming to engage us on the work that we do. We have come to the close of this session. The minister is available for questions and engagement. We are just about to close up. I see signs from my team. Is there anything I've left out? Yes. Thank you very much, Mabato. The invite was issued by the minister. Please do come. It's going to be a very exciting day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
You said
Yeah,
oh.
I'll back up for an interview.
What do you have?
Are you sure? Oh, I'm glad. Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Absolutely. Do you have your card?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Handwriting is very good. Yeah, but thank you so much. Thank you.
How are you?
No, I don't see that.